I've watched that video countless times, and it sure looks like Brittney Griner says, fucking white girl.
Or the ticky-tack fouls that we were talking about earlier today.
Well, that pretty much sounds like trash effing white girl.
Yeah.
I mean,
You know what's absolutely mind-blowing? The WNBA traded America's most dangerous arms dealer for Brittney Griner, and now she's out here calling their biggest star a fucking white girl on live television. Yeah, you heard that right. The same league that desperately needs viewers just watched their so-called veteran leadership trash talk the one person actually putting butts in seats. But here's the kicker. Nobody's talking about the real story behind this mess. What happens when jealousy meets racial politics in a league that's hemorrhaging money faster than a sinking ship? What happens when the very people who should be grateful for increased attention decide to bite the hand that feeds them? And most importantly, what happens when a league built on victim mentality suddenly has to face the uncomfortable truth that their savior doesn't look like them? I think we're witnessing the most spectacular self-destruction in sports history. And it all started with one simple basketball foul that exposed everything wrong with the WNBA today.
Caitlin Clark fouls Angel Reese. Angel Reese does one of these LeBron flops and falls on the ground. I mean, she learned it from LeBron. Falls to the ground.
Let me break down this absolute circus for you. Caitlin Clark, the rookie sensation who single-handedly dragged college basketball into the mainstream, commits what should be a routine foul on Angel Reese. Nothing crazy, just basketball being basketball, but Angel Reese goes down like she's been shot by a sniper, channeling her inner LeBron James with a flop that would make FIFA players jealous.
Next thing you know, DeMarcus like, oh my God, she's protected. Oh, it's all because she's white and all this other stuff. And then Angel Reese comes out. And
Now, here's where things get interesting. Instead of just playing ball, everyone loses their minds. DeMarcus Cousins jumps on social media screaming about how Clark gets special treatment because she's white. Angel Reese starts running her mouth about being targeted.
Jamil Hill comes out and says Angel Reese at the end of her career is going to end up being, calls Angel Reese end of career will be known as Michael Jordan.
And then, get this, Jamila Hill has the audacity to declare that Angel Reese will end up being the Michael Jordan of the WNBA.
Shows that Angel Reese has a field goal percentage of 22.7% in a WNBA game, which is a significantly lower than an average.
Let me pause right there. Michael Jordan, the woman shooting 22.7% from the field, is the next Michael Jordan. I've seen middle school players with better shooting percentages. This is the same Angel Reese who can barely hit shots from 5 feet away from the basket. 5 feet. That's literally standing under the rim and throwing the ball up. But apparently, missing wide open layups is now considered legendary basketball according to these people.
RG3 and comes out and says, man, you know, Caitlin Clark is a superstar. And
Meanwhile, RG3, the former NFL quarterback who actually understands professional athletics, makes a reasonable comment about Caitlin Clark being a genuine superstar. Simple statement, right? Wrong.
Ryan Clark, who's a commentator, out of nowhere comes out. He says, what would RG3 know? Who's a black man, by the way. He says, what would RG3 know about this? He's married to a white woman.
Ryan Clark, who's supposed to be some kind of sports analyst, comes out of nowhere with the most ridiculous take I've ever heard. He says RG3 doesn't know what he's talking about because, and I'm quoting here, he's married to a white woman. Think about that for a second. A black man's opinion about basketball gets dismissed because of who he chose to marry. The racial gatekeeping is so blatant, it's almost comical. Ryan Clark literally said a black man can't have valid opinions about racial dynamics in sports because his wife is white. The mental gymnastics required to reach that conclusion could win Olympic gold.
Ryan Clark's credit, he apologizes about this.
But here's the beautiful part. Ryan Clark actually apologized later. Even he realized how insane that sounded. Yet somehow, this was just the opening act of this train wreck.
And then being essentially kidnapped by the Russian government, and then we had to trade an arms dealer for her.
Enter Brittney Griner, the 7-foot center who cost America an arms dealer in a prisoner exchange. She's playing against Indiana Fever, fouls out of the game, and sits on the bench absolutely fuming.
Brittney Griner says, fucking white girl.
The cameras catch her clear as day saying what lip readers unanimously agree sounds like fucking white girl. Now, I've watched that clip about 50 times, and unless Brittney Griner suddenly developed a speech impediment, she's talking about Caitlin Clark. Some people tried to claim she said whack call, referring to the referees, but come on. The last word is clearly girl, not call. You'd have to be willfully blind to miss it.
And the WNBA had responded with a statement confirming the investigation. Quote, the WNBA strongly condemns racism, hate, and discrimination in all forms. They have no place in our league or in society. We are aware of the allegations and are looking into the matter. Now, there was no evidence at the time that any of this was true.
The WNBA's response? Complete silence. Radio silence. They launched a full investigation into imaginary racist comments from fans in the stands. Comments that mysteriously nobody could record despite everyone having phones. But when one of their own players drops racial slurs on camera, suddenly they're too busy to comment.
Not all that long ago, 2024, December, she came out and she had to acknowledge her own white privilege. Here was Caitlin Clark back in December, acknowledging her white privilege.
This is the same league that forces Caitlin Clark to give apology statements about her white privilege every few months. She has to stand there and acknowledge that her success somehow comes from her skin color rather than her ability to drain three-pointers from the parking lot. The woman is literally revolutionizing women's basketball, bringing in viewers who never cared about the WNBA before, and they make her apologize for being successful while white.
She said, I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege.
She said, I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege. But when Brittney Griner uses racially charged language, crickets. When players consistently target Clark with flagrant fouls that could end her career, silence. When the league's own players openly resent their biggest draw. That's just competitive rivalry.
Brittney Griner voiced frustration in a recent interview, claiming that Caitlin Clark is ruining what used to make the WNBA great.
I think the hypocrisy is staggering, but it gets worse. Brittney Griner then has the nerve to complain about crowds being too loud and distracting. Let me get this straight. A professional athlete is complaining that people are actually showing up to watch games and making noise.
WNBA games used to be a chill, quiet place. You could bring your laptop and relax.
She literally said the WNBA used to be better when the stands were empty because players could bring laptops and get work done. Are you kidding me? This woman is complaining that fans are paying money to watch her play basketball and having the audacity to cheer and yell during games. She's upset that the WNBA is no longer a quiet study hall where players can multitask during games. The level of entitlement is breathtaking.
I saw a guy with his daughter in the crowd, both of them yelling. Couldn't hear what they were saying exactly, but it was either about my performance or some light racism. Definitely one of the two.
Griner complained about seeing a guy with his daughter in the crowd, both of them yelling, and she couldn't tell if they were critiquing her performance or being lightly racist. So in her mind, a father bringing his daughter to a basketball game and cheering is somehow problematic. This is the mindset of someone who fundamentally doesn't understand professional sports. You want to know what's really happening here? The WNBA has spent decades building an identity around being ignored and undervalued. They've made victimhood their brand. Empty arenas became a badge of honor, proof that society doesn't appreciate women's sports. Low ratings were evidence of systemic sexism rather than a product quality issue.
If Caitlin Clark were not in the WNBA, we would not be talking about the WNBA. She is the only ticket draw in the WNBA. A large percentage of all tickets sold in the WNBA are so people can watch Caitlin Clark.
Then Caitlin Clark shows up and ruins their whole narrative. Suddenly, arenas are packed. Ratings are through the roof. Merchandise is flying off shelves. The WNBA is finally getting the attention they claim to want for decades. But there's a problem. The attention is for one specific player, and she doesn't fit their preferred demographic.
She's like a Steph Curry.
The cognitive dissonance is killing them. They wanted mainstream success, but they wanted it on their terms, with their chosen representatives. Instead, they got a small-town Iowa girl who plays basketball like Steph Curry and brings in audiences they never imagined possible. So what do? They sabotage their own success. They allow players to target Clark with dangerous fouls. They stay silent when veterans use racial slurs. They force their biggest star to apologize for her success. They're literally cutting off their nose to spite their face. The numbers don't lie.
I mean, it's not even just a year. They've
Every
lost.
year.
The WNBA loses tens of millions of dollars every year. They've been a money-losing operation since day one. The NBA has been subsidizing them for decades out of pure charity. Then finally, miraculously, they have a player who can change all of that, and they're actively working against her.
Angel Reese, according to Jameel Hill, is going to be the Michael Jordan of the WNBA.
I think Angel Reese perfectly represents everything wrong with this league. She shoots 22.7% from the field, historically awful, but gets compared to Michael Jordan because she talks a big game. She embodies the participation trophy mentality where effort matters more than results, where attitude trumps achievement. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark is out there actually playing basketball at an elite level, drawing comparisons to Steph Curry and Larry Bird based on her actual performance, not her social media presence. She's breaking records, selling tickets, and elevating the entire sport. But somehow, she's the problem. The beautiful irony is that Caitlin Clark is exactly what the WNBA claimed they wanted, a transcendent talent who could bring mainstream attention to women's basketball. They just never imagined she'd be white. Their entire identity was built around being overlooked because of gender and race, and Clark's success exposes that maybe, just maybe, the real issue was always the quality of the product.
There are entire compilations of people basically laying hard fouls on Caitlin Clark last season, now putting her in danger of actually getting hurt.
You know what's going to happen next? Clark will probably get injured from all the targeting, ratings will plummet, arenas will empty out again, and the WNBA will go back to being a charity case nobody cares about. Then they'll blame sexism and racism for their failure, completely ignoring the fact that they actively drove away their own salvation. The WNBA had a golden opportunity to build something special around Caitlin Clark. They could have embraced her success, protected their investment, and used her popularity to elevate other players. Instead, they chose resentment over growth, politics over performance, and victimhood over victory. That's why this league will never matter. Not because of sexism or racism or lack of support, but because they're more interested in maintaining their victim status than actually succeeding. They'd rather be right than be relevant, and that's exactly what they'll continue to be. Irrelevant.
There actually is some racism in the WNBA.
The Brittney Griner incident isn't just about one player's poor judgment. It's a perfect encapsulation of everything toxic about the WNBA's culture. When your league's biggest story is veteran players attacking your biggest star, you've lost the plot entirely.
If the league is going to be rooted in this sort of nastiness with regard to its only real star, good luck to them. We'll see what the viewership is like in the WNBA.
Watch the ratings tank now that Clark is injured, and remember this moment when they try to blame everyone except themselves for their inevitable return to obscurity. Hit that subscribe button if you want more honest takes on sports that everyone else is afraid to discuss.